And joining me now from Cambridge, Massachusetts is Thomas Remington, a visiting professor of government at Harvard University and also an emeritus professor of political science at Emory University. Professor, good to have you on the program. From what you're seeing, are these negotiations really going somewhere, or are we just pretty much still on square one?
To say, I think we're on square one. I think there's a great discrepancy between the discussions that are constituting these negotiations, so-called negotiations, and the realities of the war. Your correspondent pointed that out. I think for the Trump administration, a peace deal looks something like a real estate transaction where there's a series of concessions over territory, allowing the United States and Russia to invest heavily in what would be very profitable land development deals. The reality is the Trump administration has not recognized that Ukraine was the victim of a massive aggression. You'll recall that just 2 days ago, there was a vote at the United Nations General Assembly, whereby a wide majority, 137 countries of the world, voted that Ukraine's territorial integrity, sovereignty, and independence needed to be respected. The United States, astonishingly, abstained. So the Trump administration is starting from the premise that once Ukraine gives up whatever it needs to get the Russians to stop fighting, then a lucrative deal can be worked out for economic development. I believe that's why Trump's negotiators are the son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and this business person, Witkoff, involving Russian financial interests, as if this was simply a matter of an economic development deal that was being worked out. So unfortunately, the vital interests of Ukraine, which are for its security to be defended, to be protected, to be guaranteed, those don't seem to be discussed. And until that happens, Ukraine is left alone to establish the terms of a ceasefire or an armistice.
Professor, you teach a course on the politics of economic inequality, and you've also spent many years teaching on politics with a focus on Russia. Looking at the economic situation for the people in Russia, how long do you think that they will put up with the added economic hardship that this war is bringing?
There's no question that Russia's economy and therefore the living standards of people are suffering. And the great debate is how long Russia can continue at this pace. You'll remember that in Russian history, all-out national mobilizations for war have occurred at certain intervals, World War II being the great most recent example. But the idea that you are sacrificing everything for the sake of victory is one that's ingrained in Russian history. Here, of course, Russia is not the party that was invaded. Nevertheless, Putin has created a framework in which he's persuaded many people that all of Europe, including the United States and Europe and the West, are attacking Russia. So he's now framing this as a war for Russia's survival against the hostile forces of the West. Under those circumstances, I believe Russians can hold out for the time being. In the longer run, I will say, Russia is sacrificing its future for the sake of winning this war. So it will take that much longer for Russia to ever rebuild.
But do you see a possible off-ramp here for Putin, something he could agree on and stop the war without having achieved all of those stated goals? Or is it the sort of maximalist approach or nothing?
At this time, I am afraid to say that anything short of a total victory, or at least what Putin can present as a total victory, would constitute a major political defeat for Putin. I believe that he has pinned his power and that of his regime to the prosecution of the war. A favorable outcome would be Ukraine ceding the land east of the fortified zone, not all of Donbass, but the land which the Russians effectively occupy, ceding it on a de facto basis if the West provided security guarantees, viable and meaningful security guarantees. If Putin could sell that to his people, which I don't think is likely, Ukraine could probably sell to its people the concessions that were necessary. But as I say, it will require security guarantees for Ukraine.
And of course, it requires possibly the U.S. administration to understand that it's not a real estate deal, as you said there in the beginning. Professor Remington, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate your insights on this matter.
You're most welcome. Thank you.